Samuel Clemens was born November 30th, 1835 in Florida, Missouri. In 1847, when Sam was 11, his father died. After his father's death, he left school and went to work as a printer's apprentice for a local newspaper. At the age of 18, he traveled to New York City and Philadelphia to work on different newspapers. By 1857, he returned home to Missouri to become a riverboat pilot. However, that career failed due to the Civil War because all traffic along the river came to a halt. In July of 1861, he traveled to Nevada in hoping of striking it rich because of the silver rush. Along this journey, he encountered Native Americans and other unique characters, which can be found later in some of his writings. Sam began writing for the Territorial Enterprise in Nevada. This was where he began using his first pen name, Mark Twain. In 1865, he became famous for the publication of his short story, Jim Smiley and His Jumping Frog. His writings were so popular that he embarked on his first lecture tour. In 1870, he married Olivia Langdon. The two newlyweds settled in Buffalo, New York, where Sam became an editor and writer for the Buffalo Express. They had 2 children by the names of Langdon and Susie Clemens. Their son Langdon passed away at the age of 2. In 1873, Sam focused on social criticism, which is when he co-wrote The Gilded Age. From 1874 to 1891, Sam completed some of his most famous works, such as The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, Life on the Mississippi, The Prince and the Pauper, A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, and The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. In 1891, Sam moved his family to Europe due to being bankrupt in the States. In Europe, he wrote about the weak governments there. On April 21st, 1901, at the age of 74, Sam died. The story begins with 2 men exchanging conversation with each other when one of the men overhears a conversation of 2 other men that reminded him of a past experience. This story seems to be very personal to this man. He decides to tell his story to the man sitting next to him under the conditions that he would not interrupt the story. The man begins to talk about a train ride he took a while back from Chicago to Indiana. The train ride seems to be going well until they hit a snowdrift. The snow took the train completely to a stop. They could tell they weren't going anywhere for a while and began to worry about starvation. 7 days later, they decide they need to eat. They resorted to cannibalism, eating about 12 men in the process, all elected fairly by the majority of the others. Then the man ends his story as it is his time to exit the train. The passenger seems stunned with what he had just heard. He asks the conductor who that man was. The conductor explains he was once a great congressman who was stuck on a broken train a while back. He got frostbite but was later rescued and went crazy for a couple of months. The story of cannibalism ended up being an exaggeration of the truth. Mark Twain wrote The Invalid Story in 1877. The story begins with the narrator describing how he feels older than he looks and how he used to be much healthier than he is now. He talks about when he last went to Cleveland, Ohio 2 years before, and how he discovered one of his friends, John B. Hackett, had passed away, and that the friend's last request was to have his corpse taken to his parents' house in Wisconsin. When the narrator arrives at the train station to take the body of his deceased friend to Wisconsin, he leaves the box to get some food and cigars, and when he returns, he accidentally grabs the wrong white box that is instead filled with guns and not the body. When the narrator gets on the express car, a stranger comes before the train takes off and places a box of Limburger cheese on top of the white box filled with guns. This cheese begins to smell when Thompson, the expressman, starts to seal the car, and the narrator believes it is Hackett's corpse and that it has started to rot, since at the time of the train trip, he is not aware that it is just the cheese and not in fact the body. The narrator begins to worry that the expressman will smell the stench of the rotting body. The expressman begins to notice the smell after he starts a fire and tells the narrator that he has transported people who have been in a trance who are not really dead, but he is sure that the narrator's friend isn't one of those. The expressman Thompson breaks one of the car's windows in order to be able to be relieved of the odor coming from the cheese. Both him and the narrator take turns breathing out the window. The narrator suggests smoking cigars in order to mask the smell. Meanwhile, the expressman asks the narrator how long Hackett has been dead, and the narrator says he only died recently, but the expressman doesn't believe him because in order for the body to start to rot, the person had to have been dead for a very long time. Thompson suggests moving the body to another part of the car, but the box starts to smell so bad that both the narrator and the expressman run outside to breathe in some fresh air. They then go back inside and once again take turns breathing out the window. When the train stops at the next train station, Thompson comes back on the train with carbolic acid, a caustic, poisonous chemical, which he douses the box with. This causes the stench to become worse. On the next stop, Thompson tries yet again to mask the stench by making a bonfire of chicken feathers, dried apples, sulfur, and other items. The resulting smell is so bad that both the narrator and the expressman decide to spend the rest of the trip outside. After the train trip, the narrator becomes extremely ill, resulting in his now poor health. The historical context for both stories, the cannibalism in the cars and the invalid story, consists of the development of numerous railroads in the 1860s. In 1869, 4 years after the Civil War ended, the Union Pacific Railroad was connected to the Central Pacific Line, meaning the world's longest railroad was completed. Both stories were written during a time of great success for railroads. For example, the years around when the invalid story was written was considered the golden age for trains because it was a dominant mode for the transportation of people and goods. In the invalid story, the narrator receives a telegram that his friend passed away, although the telegraph was not as successful yet.